What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Animation Podcast, a weekly podcast about all things animation brought to you by FilmBook. My name is Matt Groening, but some of you may know me as AniMat from my YouTube channel, Electric Dragon 505, home of web series that are all about animation, including Animation Look Back and AniMat's reviews. Now, if this is your first time here in the Animation Podcast, well, let me tell you, if you're here to listen to a podcast where I would talk about animation, well, you've come to the perfect place, my friend. But specifically, though, what I'm going to do is that I will be talking about the latest news that happened this week. So first and foremost, I will go and discuss about, in this episode in particular, about Matt Groening's brand new animated series. Yes, he is going to make another one after The Simpsons and Futurama. Then afterwards, we will be looking at one of the big trailers that happened, or that came out of San Diego Comic-Con this year. Then afterwards, we will be looking into another trailer, this time being Sony Pictures Animation's next animated film. Then afterwards, we will be looking into the Emoji Movie and something that they really screwed up before the release of the film. And then finally, we will end things off with AniMat's Pick of the Week. If you want to check out more episodes of the Animation Podcast, then all you have to do is head on down to FilmBook, that is film-book.com, by searching the Animation Podcast. You can also email us at podcast@filmbook.com with the Animation Podcast in the subject line. And so for our first story, I want to talk to you guys about an animation legend that we all know and love, Matt Groening. Now, this guy not only revolutionized television animation, but this guy revolutionized television in general, especially with his most popular creation, The Simpsons, which is pretty much on its way to break the record for the longest running scripted series of all time. And this is just television in general. And the fact that an animated series is breaking that record, it really is monumental right over there. But there is one big problem when it comes to the legacy of Matt Groening. I mean, he has done some great work, no doubt about it. He is the creator of The Simpsons, and he is the creator of Futurama. But the problem is, in terms of animation, that's all he did, or at the very least, that's all that he is well known for. So it would be nice to see if there would be more to Matt Groening, if he can bring out some more great animated series in the veins of The Simpsons and Futurama to put right under his belt so that he could be seen as a great animation legend in the veins of other great television animation creators like Hanna-Barbera. Well, it seems that he really is starting to be on the right track with a brand new animated series. Yes, the big number 3 is going to be coming, and it is called Disenchanted. Now, this is a brand new series that's going to be coming exclusively for Netflix. And to give you guys a little bit of a summary of what this is, using my source here from The Hollywood Reporter, the series takes place in a crumbling medieval kingdom called Dreamland. The series follows the misadventures of hard-drinking young Princess Bean, her feisty elf companion Elfo, and her personal demon Lucy. Along the way, the trio encounters ogres, sprites, harpies, imps, trolls, walruses, and more of what Netflix calls human fools. Now, on top of that, not only did they officially announce Disenchanted, but they also revealed the cast of Disenchanted as well. Now, not necessarily a big cast, is mostly mentioning the big 3, and then also the others that will be included as well. So, for example, Abby Jacobson will be the voice of Bean, Nat Faxon will be the voice of Elfo, Eric Andre will be Lucy, and for the rest of the cast, they pretty much include some regulars from either The Simpsons or Futurama. So these include John DiMaggio, Billy West, Maurice LaMarche, Tress MacNeille, David Herman, Matt Berry, Jenny Batten, Rich Fulcher, Noel Fielding, and Lucy Montgomery. Then Matt Groening himself would discuss a little bit about Disenchanted, as he stated that ultimately Disenchanted will be about life and death, love and sex, and how to keep laughing in a world full of suffering and idiots despite what the elders and wizards and other jerks tell you. Netflix would also go on to mention about not about Netflix, I mean, to talk about Disenchanted, saying, Matt Groening's brilliant work has resonated with generations around the world, and we couldn't be happier to work with him on Disenchantment. Disenchantment. Did I say Disenchanted before? I apologize. Like, if that really is the case, I am sorry. Okay, so the series is called Disenchantment. Okay. No, I think I kept on saying Disenchanted. I don't know why. I don't know. Like, I'm guessing, like, my mindset is too much of a parody of, like, some Disney movies and stuff like that. But anyway, sorry about that. Anyways, back to what I was saying. Matt Groening's brilliant work has resonated with generations around the world, and we couldn't be happier to work with him on Disenchantment. The series will bear his trademark animation style and biting wit, and we think it's a perfect fit for our many Netflix animation fans. And this one will pretty much go into the same category of shows that they just brought in more of, including BoJack Horseman and also F is for Families. So they're hoping this is going to be the next big Netflix adult comedy series. And honestly, when listening to, or just hearing the concept of Disenchantment, I feel like this is the perfect next step for Matt Groening, because in a way, now he's going into this new field that he hasn't really covered, or maybe he has, but only for parody purposes on The Simpsons. Like, for example, when you think, like, as an entire concept for his shows, you got The Simpsons, which is more of a suburban contemporary comedy. You got Futurama, which is like this big sci-fi sitcom adventure. And then you got Disenchantment, which is this adult fantasy comedy, and it really does lean to the classic Dungeons and Dragons style fantasy, where you have like medieval knights and special fairy tale style creatures. And in a way, like, as I stated before, of course this would seem a little bit like some kind of Disney parody, but also I wouldn't be surprised if this could also be in the tone of a parody of some modern TV shows that are really popular right now, especially the ones that are on Cartoon Network, like with Steven Universe and especially Adventure Time, considering that it would go into serious subject matter, and like in the premise itself, like what Matt Groening would explain to us, like it'll go into some deep subjects, but it'll handle it in a way that would be humorous and comedic. So it does seem rather interesting. And with the way The Simpsons is in their prime, and also with Futurama, I'm sure that this could probably come out as like Matt Groening's next big hit. Now, rather if this is going to become as big as as just Futurama, I was about to say like if it would be as big as The Simpsons, but let's be honest, nothing in this world can be as big as The Simpsons. No TV show ever can be as big as The Simpsons, except for anything related to news or reality shows, I guess, or I don't know. But the big thing with Disenchantment is that maybe there could be a possibility it could become the next big hit. Now, rather if it's going to reach like pop culture phenomenon levels of Futurama, that would have to be something we would have to wait and see. But so far, it does sound pretty interesting, and the idea of a new animated comedy from Matt Groening, it does sound pretty interesting. It really puts himself in a position where he really is going to prove himself, where he has a lot more up his sleeve than just Futurama and like a whole bunch of Simpsons seasons. So, if you guys are excited to go and see Disenchantment onto Netflix, well, so far the thing is, what they did is that Netflix has picked up a total of 20 episodes, and they will be releasing the first 10 episodes for the first season of Disenchantment in 2018. Now, our next story right over here, we're going to be going into the San Diego Comic-Con, which happened last week. And during that time, there have been tons of new trailers, but the big ones that came out, of course, are the superhero ones, where DC talked a little bit more in depth into Justice League, while Marvel decided to reveal a little bit more than what they did at D23 and talk about Thor Ragnarok and maybe a little bit of Black Panther as well. But in terms of animation, there are some trailers that came out, like there was a brand new trailer of the Lego Ninjago movie, and then there was also Nickelodeon that decided to put their front foot forward and made a big impact on the internet when they released the reboot trailers of both Rocko's Modern Life and Hey Arnold. But then there was one trailer that really did stand out among the crowd. Now, this was something that was rather unique, and so far the reactions are pretty much going everywhere. But for me, at least, I find it to be quite cool. And what I'm talking, of course, is Ready Player One, the next movie brought to us by Steven Spielberg. Now, for those of you who don't know what this is about, now this is based on the book by Ernest Cline from 2011. And the story goes is that it is set in a dystopian future where there are some kids who decide that they want to escape the harsh reality by going into this virtual reality where they can pretty much be whatever they want to be. And in there, it's also soaked with so many pop culture references. And even in the trailer, you actually do see a lot of them. Like, for example, in there, you actually see the DeLorean driving around, you see Freddy Krueger, but you also get some animation references. You see someone riding a bike from Akira. Of course, the biggest thing everybody noticed, and I do mean that figuratively and literally, is the Iron Giant. Like, there's just this one scene where, like, I think it's the main character that's just standing on a cliff, and right next to him comes a ninja, and the freaking Iron Giant right next to him. It's actually quite an amazing shot right over there. But there is one reference that not many people point out, and I don't think anybody really point out. Now, this is something that I'm not going to confirm anything, but this is something I think I saw. Now, this actually happened before the scene that you see Freddy Krueger, and it was pretty much like this big war going around, and I think one of the characters ends up grabbing what I think is a soldier from Ralph Bakshi's The Wizards. You might know what I'm talking about, like the guys dressed up all in red and they're riding this weird alien horse animal that's on two legs. You know what I'm talking about, right? That guy? I think he is in that trailer, but I'm not 100% sure. Like, we don't fully see him. It's just mostly a silhouette, but it really does show a strong resemblance. But essentially, that's kind of the whole premise. We don't know the full, the trailer itself didn't say the full story, just more the concept of this world that, like, it's set in a dystopian future, but people would escape into this virtual reality where pop culture galore is pretty much spread around. And I just want to go and start this off by saying that I am someone who is really not familiar with the book. I have never read the novel myself. I don't even know what it's about. I haven't fully done my research into what is the entirety of Ready Player One or who Ernest Cline is and all that kind of stuff. But wait a minute. Actually, you know what? Screw this. I just noticed using my source here in using my source on Cartoon Brew, there actually is an entire summary. Okay, well, screw what I'm saying. Let's do our little research now. It stated that apparently people have found salvation in the Oasis, an expansive virtual reality universe created by the brilliant and eccentric James Halliday. When Halliday dies, he leaves his immense fortune to the first person to find a digital Easter egg he has hidden somewhere in the Oasis, sparking a contest that grips the entire world. When an unlikely young hero named Wade Watts decided to join the contest, he is hurled into a breakneck reality-bending treasure hunt through a fantastical universe of mystery, discovery, and danger. So in a way, this is like a pop culture soaked, it's a mad world, or it's like Rat Race. So that's pretty much the big picture right over here. But one thing I will say about the trailer itself, it actually really is cool. Like, visually, it is purely stunning. Like, the worst that it could be right now is something like Ghost in the Shell. Like, maybe it has a really crappy script, but the visuals are undeniably awesome. And the way that they do introduce all these pop culture elements, I really do find it cool, because in a way, it is very reminiscent to the Lego Movie, where that one right over there is just showered with so many different kinds of references. And maybe it's going to be the same thing right over here with Ready Player One. Now, I'm not expecting all different sorts of cameos. Like, apparently in the book, they do say that other sources are in there, like from other companies, like apparently Tron is in there and stuff like that. But considering that this is distributed by Warner Brothers, I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of cameos outside of the Warner Brothers realm. Like, we're not going to see a lot of Marvel characters, we're not going to see like Disney characters popping around or anything like that. I think Warner Brothers is just putting themselves in the limits of what they can distribute, what they can reference. You know, like I said, this is a lot like with the Lego movies, with like with the first Lego movie where they put in so many different references, or like even with the Lego Batman movie, where even though you do get a lot of different Batman references, but like later on in the film, suddenly the Joker enters into this parallel world where he would meet up with other big name villains like Voldemort, the Wicked Witch of the West, Saruman, and so much more. That was like a really cool inclusion that they did right over there. But I'm expecting pretty much it could be the same thing with Ready Player One. But here's the big kicker, though. For animation fans, there is actually one big exciting thing that Steven Spielberg is going to do. Apparently, at Comic-Con, he openly stated that there's one character who will play a major role in this, and that is the Iron Giant. He, like, I have another source here from Variety. Like, the article actually ends up saying that the Iron Giant is a real major player in this story. So, in a way, if Steven Spielberg ends up taking Ready Player One, and he would turn this into, you know, like, he would pretty much turn it into an unofficial sequel to the Iron Giant, an unofficial sequel to the Iron Giant, then honestly, I will go back to loving him forever. Like, oh my god, like, I would completely forgive him for all the big flaws in the BFG. Like, seriously, that would actually be really amazing. It could be completely unrelated to the book itself and make it a lot more about the Iron Giant, and I'll pretty much leave happy. Like, holy crap. And honestly, I think the big thing that really is exciting for animation fans is that we really are seeing the Iron Giant grow up to become such an icon. Because keep in mind, when it opened in theaters back in 1999, it was a box office flop. But now it has grown into such massive popularity where now he's going to play a big role in a Steven Spielberg film. I think if we say that 10 years ago, people would look at us like we're freaking nuts. That is amazing. The fact that the Iron Giant is actually grown to this level of popularity right over here. And in a way, I actually am kind of excited to see this movie, actually. I actually am curious to know, what is it that Steven Spielberg has in store with this film? You know, it could actually be cool, maybe it would suck, but who knows? But if you are excited to see what Ready Player One has in store, then all you have to do is wait until March 30th, 2018 to see all the pop culture references come out like they did in the Lego Movie. Okay, so for our next story right over here, we're going to be jumping from one trailer to another, and we're going to be looking into a Sony Pictures Animation film. Now, keep in mind, guys, Sony Pictures Animation really wants to explode this year, like unleash everything that they have. They've already unleashed a straight-to-DVD movie, they've already unleashed 2 TV shows, and they want to pretty much unleash 3 movies in 1 year. They have already done so with the Smurfs, they recently just did that with the Emoji Movie, and now they got their 3rd movie already lined up with The Star. So for those of you who don't know, what is the significance with The Star? Well, the big thing is that it's basically the nativity story, but told in the perspective of the animals. So basically, this is your talking animals movie, and yeah, this is a comedy and all that kind of stuff, but it's pretty much meant to tell the nativity story, like the birth of Jesus Christ. And the big thing about The Star that everybody is noticing is actually the fact that it has a shockingly low budget. Now, that's kind of one of the new big strategies that Sony Pictures Animation is trying to do, is make their budgets really low. Rather it be with Smurfs The Lost Village, where it was only $60 million, or the Emoji Movie, only $50 million. This one, however, how can I put this? Well, basically what they did, The Star is to Sony Pictures Animation like what Captain Underpants is to DreamWorks Animation, where what they did, in order to really cut down costs, they actually outsourced the animation in Montreal, Canada. But what they did here is that they really cut down the budget to the point where it's only $18 million. $18 million. I kid you not. That is actually $1 million less than Sausage Party, and that is that's an entire story right over there. I don't want to get back into that whole mess. You know what I'm talking about with that thing. But also, to really give you a good perspective, The Star actually has the exact same budget as Norm of the North. And when I watched this trailer, in terms of the quality, it really does show, because the biggest criticism that everybody is giving is the fact that it really does look like a straight-to-DVD film. And I can't help but, yeah, I agree with them. It really does feel really cheap. Like, the budget now, it really does show. I mean, I want to get, like, to the credit of Sausage Party, even though the animation is not necessarily its best, you could tell that, for the most part, it's trying to work with the material that it offers. Like, it knows that it's low budget, so it really does try hard to work with the small limitations in order to really have fun with it. Like, I know the animation, and like, I know in my review, like, I was pretty hard on it, but they did what they could with a $19 million budget. I mean, even with Captain Underpants, that film, that has a budget of like, what, $38 million. And that movie actually looks almost as good as many of the other DreamWorks films, because they actually played around with the limitations. But in here, however, like this one, with The Star, it pretty much set the bar so low. Like, the budget is so small that, honestly, it was really hard for them to really work with it, to work with any sort of, like, make any kind of limit and play around that. They just pretty much made your standard animated feature, and it ends up looking cheap. It just ends up looking that you would immediately go and grab at the bargain bin at Walmart. But then also there is the execution of how they're doing it. And honestly, for me, the best way that I could describe The Star, so far, it looks like the nativity story, but the style is pretty much in the form of the nut job, because they really are trying to do this goofy animated comedy where the talking animals are just making lowbrow jokes, and it is filled with an entire all-star cast. Like, they pretty much list them all in here. Like, you got Stephen Yeun of The Walking Dead, you got Zachary Levi, you got Keegan-Michael Key, Gabriel Iglesias, Tracy Morgan, Tyler Perry, Oprah Winfrey, Christopher Plummer, Kristen Chenoweth, and all these big name celebrities all coming together. So, like, you got that big star power that's just mostly made for the advert, like, it's mostly for marketing purposes. And, like, the writing of the script, it just doesn't feel funny. It's just really pandering to small kids. And honestly, the most awkward scene from this trailer, like, if you have seen it, you'd most likely agree with me. It's pretty much the part, like, after you see the title of the star, and then suddenly, like, there's this bird who has to distract some guard dogs. And the way the bird does it is that he does a dance. It's basically the exact same thing like in the Ferdinand trailer, where the hedgehogs were distracting these guys with a little dance going, you know I want ya, you know I want ya, you know I want ya, and, you know, and all that stuff. But in here, there's not even like a soundtrack behind it. You just see the bird dancing and the bird twerking. Yes, I kid you not, the bird was twerking in a nativity story movie. No freaking joke. And honestly, because of that, I just feel like this is really pandering to such a very, very, very limited audience. And the living proof of it is actually somewhere in the beginning. Yes, right over here, where they actually stated that this is from the studio that brought you Miracles from Heaven and Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. So here is the target audience for the star. Okay, so it's a holiday movie, so it wants to go and capture the holiday crowd. But it's not just that, though. This is not a movie that it's just Christmas in general, or it's about families in Christmas, or it's about Santa. This is about the nativity story, so it's leaning more towards Jesus. So this is for the Christian holiday crowd. But not only that, the tone that they're trying to go is that they want to pander it towards kids. Like, this is a legit kids movie. I couldn't even consider this a family comedy because, honestly, it really shows that they really don't care about adults. So what they do is that they want to make a movie for the holiday Christian kids. And you know the craziest thing out of all this is the freaking release date. No joke. Okay, like an $18 million budget and a very specific small audience is one thing. But releasing this movie on November 10th makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. I kid you not. On November 10th, they want to release this. That date right there, that's closer to Halloween than it is Christmas. But the stupidest thing is the fact that they're releasing it before American Thanksgiving. Like, this really does feel like, okay, Halloween is over, let's put our mind onto Christmas. Like, I don't even think that, yeah, like, legitimately, it's not even 2 weeks until Halloween is over, like, after Halloween. And now they're immediately putting this up. Which, honestly, how is Sony expecting to make money? I think I get it why they really want to make it such a low budget, because honestly, there's no way that this film alone could even surpass $100 million at the box office. And especially like when it's in the middle of all the big movies coming out, especially like with the superhero films like Thor Ragnarok and the Justice League, and like 2 weeks especially 2 weeks after this, it would actually be Pixar's Coco. So a lot more people are going to go more towards that than The Star. So that's the big thing, is that how the fridge is Sony expecting to make money out of this? I really don't know, but hopefully they're probably expecting some small change, because this has a smaller audience target, or a smaller target audience than freaking Sausage Party. So I really don't know. But if you guys are interested to... Oh, actually, there is one more thing I would like to mention, however, is actually audience's reaction towards this, and it's actually not that good, really. Like, the audience is, like, looking into the comment section on the YouTube video of it. Like, a lot of people are really not that interested, or, like, they're just wondering, like, what the hell is going on. Like, I'll just read you a few of the comments. Like, one that says, "A bird shaking his butt would certainly appeal to Christians." Or, glad that they listened to voice... Oh, yeah, this is another one. "Glad they listed the voice cast again 30 seconds after they did the first time. My memory is terrible." There's also another one, "Jesus Christ." Like, just another one going, "Oh, Jesus Christ." Which, honestly... nowadays, I think it's really great that Sony Pictures Animation is actually making a movie related to Jesus, because no other animation studio would make people go, "Oh, Jesus Christ." But yeah, okay, and also I just want to mention, however, that the reception, it's kind of bad, but it's not Emoji Movie bad. It's not like the entire public is against the Emoji Movie. It's more the factor that, like, it's kind of mixed, where, like, some people are interested, like, they're saying it's bad, but they're not saying, like, this is the worst thing ever, or they're saying that Hollywood is running out of ideas, or that this movie is cancer. But if you guys are actually curious to go and check out The Star, then all you have to do is just wait until November 10th for the release of this movie. Now our next story, now this is a bit unavoidable, we have to talk about the Emoji Movie. Now, of course, it was released in theaters, and it's honestly shocking over the fact that it's actually performing quite well at the box office. As I am recording this, we don't even know if it actually made it at #1. Like, it's so far a heated battle between Emojis and Dunkirk. So we'll just have to wait and see how that happens. But I'll just say right now, if it does actually end up getting, if it does end up getting #1 at the box office, then honestly, I might go into depression. Like, I'm going to lose massive faith in humanity. Almost, yeah, probably as much as I did when Donald Trump won the election thanks to the help of the Russians. Like, it would be that bad. But anyways, going into the Emoji Movie, I will say, if there is one thing that I will give Sony Pictures credit for, is the fact that they really did play their cards right when it comes to distributing a garbage animated film. Like, they really did held on to the criticisms. Like, they waited until the last day to pretty much unleash all the critics' opinion on it. Well, not Sony, but the critics pretty much released all their reviews on it just the day before the Emoji Movie would be released. Like, for a good while, on Rotten Tomatoes and on Metacritic, it was nothing. And a good thing, too, because it's pretty much getting the reviews of nightmares. Like, it's even getting, like, some people could even say that the reviews of it is even worse than what Norm of the North got. But, even at that, the Emoji Movie itself could not even get away with getting a few controversies of its own. Now, apparently, what happened in the days before the release, on Twitter, the Emoji Movie would release a parody poster calling The Emoji's Tale, which of course is a parody of The Handmaid's Tale. And this really sparked a lot of outrage on Twitter, and they really blasted the movie for it, so much so that the Emoji Movie Twitter had to delete that message. Oh, but believe you me, the internet does not forgive, and they do not forget. And for those of you who don't really know what's the point of this entire controversy that's going on, let me just tell you a little bit about what this show is about, if you don't know. The Netflix series, The Handmaid's Tale, reading the synopsis on my source here in The Hollywood Reporter, it stated that, where is it? Oh, here it is. The show, starring Elizabeth Moss, is set in a futuristic world in which government officials in a totalitarian society send young feral women, known as the handmaids, to wealthy families where they are forced to procreate for them. in which one person on Twitter would respond by asking, wait, do emojis do that gross rape ritual, or did the marketing team not think this through? And ever since then, everybody gave it massive backlash. Like, they pretty much attacked the Emoji Movie Twitter account for doing such a terrible, terrible move. And the ultimate word that people are pretty much saying that, like, how this entire thing was handled is that what the Emoji Movie did was purely tasteless. And honestly, after watching the film myself, I have to say that is pretty much the perfect word to describe Sony Pictures Animation today. After the years of garbage that they have sent us with films like Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, with the Smurfs and Hotel Transylvania, and now with the Emoji Movie, they are purely and utterly tasteless. That's all their product is in general. That's all they do, is just tasteless products. And especially with the Emoji Movie, I think the case is really that they weren't really thinking anything through. They were just randomly picking something popular, and they decided to just emojify it in order to promote their movie. That's it. That's all. Now, I just want to say, however, that it does happen before that, you know, a bunch of animated films that would end up going to parody some big name movies, some adult movies even. Like, earlier this year, Zootopia actually made a whole bunch of posters based on a lot of adult feature films that would go into some serious subject matter. These include Hell or High Water, Hacksaw Ridge, Moonlight, La La Land, and so much more. But there's a big reason why that one had no controversy whatsoever, and Disney easily got away with it. Now, let me ask you, in terms of the movies that I have listed, what do they all have in common? They were all nominated this year for Best Picture at the Oscars. So basically, the whole purpose of it is not to promote Zootopia, but to pretty much honor the Best Picture movies. So that's why they pretty much made Zootopia parodies of those posters like Moonlight or Hacksaw Ridge or La La Land and so much more. It was just to honor the Oscars. But with what the Emoji Movie did, it's purely made to promote the film, and that's it. And I mean, it really does make no sense, because they really were just thinking of just picking something that's currently popular right now just to promote their films. I mean, there's no way that the target audience of the Emoji Movie would even know what The Handmaid's Tale is. Like, they don't even know who Margaret Atwood is. Seriously, it just makes no sense. But overall, just looking at how Sony Pictures Animation is right now, like, they really are in a bad spot. Now, some people could disagree with me over the fact that technically, yes, the Emoji Movie could be making a good amount of money, and we'll see in the future if it could actually end up being profitable for Sony Pictures. But I'm just going to say this right now. It doesn't matter how much money Sony Animation is going to make on the Emoji Movie. Their reputation is dying, or at the very least right now, it's dead. Like, honestly, I think the big thing when it comes to Sony Pictures Animation, it is honestly shocking right now that they are proving that I am right about everything that I've said about them in my Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs 2 review. It's utterly shocking, but honestly, it's true. It really does describe perfectly how Sony Pictures Animation is right now. They have no care about their reputation, even if it's at the bottom of the barrel and everybody hates them. As long as they make their money, they're happy. They don't care about their fans. They don't care about audiences. They don't care about their filmmakers. They don't care about nothing. They only care about making the money. And we'll just have to wait and see in the long run if that's actually going to go well for Sony. Making money is one thing, but having a reputation is far more important. And that's probably what will kill Sony Pictures Animation, before losing a whole bunch of money. So that's the thing. Like, sure, Sony could be making money out of the Emoji Movie, but they're still tasteless nonetheless. And so finally, we are going to end things off with AniMat's Pick of the Week. And this week, I'm just going to start out by saying that the animation industry suffered a major tragedy. Technically, yes, there was the Emoji Movie, but that's not the tragedy that I'm referring to. What I mean is that they lost someone who really did play a big role in the medium's history. Not just in terms of her job, but also her contribution to make animation as big as it is today. And what I am referring to is, of course, June Foray, who sadly passed away at the age of 99, just more than 2 months away from her 100th birthday. And this was actually confirmed by her close friend, David Nemitz, which, by the way, I'm using my source here on Variety to pretty much describe everything about June Foray. And the big significance with June Foray, in case you don't know who she is, in terms of what she does as her job, she is actually a well-known voice actress. In fact, a lot of people would even say she is the first lady of voice acting, where she would do voices for many decades. I would say probably around for about 70 years even. Like, until the day she died, she has done nothing but actually no, that's a lie to say that she has done nothing but that. She has always been voicing animated characters. Now, many of the standout ones that I would like to mention right now, some of the more recognizable ones that you probably know, and I just want to say right now, if you are listening to this, then there is an extremely good chance, or it is a fact, that you grew up with a character that was voiced by June Foray. Now, her most popular roles would actually be from Warner Brothers, and especially with the Looney Tunes, where she would be the voice of Witch Hazel and Granny, a role in which she would be voicing for more than 60 years. The same Granny that you would hear in the late 50s is actually the same Granny that you would end up hearing much later on in shows like the Looney Tunes show. I kid you not. But also at the same time, she is known to be the voice of Rocky the Squirrel and Natasha in the Rocky and Bullwinkle show. And she would even provide the voice of Cindy Lou Who in Chuck Jones' How the Grinch Stole Christmas. But then there would also be some Disney voices that she would also do. She would be the voice of Lucifer from Walt Disney's 1950 film Cinderella. And then much later on, decades later, she would be the voice of Grandmother Fa in Mulan. And then also, she would provide a lot of big voices in TV shows. But for Disney, probably her most popular role on television is Magica De Spell in DuckTales. And this is just a handful of the voices that she provided. She has done hundreds of voices throughout her entire career. But her legacy does not stay in just voice acting. That's not the big reason why she is a major player in the history of animation. In the early 60s, she is actually one of the founders of ASIFA Hollywood, which is the big organization that is meant to go and preserve the history of animation and all the projects that came from it. And she would be one of the founders in the 60s with some other big name animation legends, including Les Goldman, Bill Littlejohn, Ward Kimball, John Wilson, Carl Bell, and Herbert Kazower. But then, in the 70s, she thought up of an idea with ASIFA to go and create a special award show that would be dedicated to audience. Like what the Oscars is to movies, what Emmys is to television, what Grammys is to music, and what the Tonys are to Broadway. she wants to create something that is the award, like the Oscar equivalent to animation. And to this day, that award show is still going on, which is known as the Annie Awards. So in a way, June Foray would be like the founder of the Annies. And on top of that, it's not just with the Annies that she is a big player in terms of awards. She was also a big player in terms of the animation categories in the Oscars, where she fought very hard with the Academy in order for them to keep the Best Animated Short category, and for many years, she had worked very hard in order for the Academy to go and end up creating Best Animated Feature. So it really is thanks to her that animation does have a good, large presence at the Oscars. Now, with all that said, if I may go and read a little excerpt from the ASIFA president, the great Jerry Beck, he stated, "On behalf of ASIFA Hollywood, of which June was a founder, we are mourning the passing of animation's best friend. She has touched so many lives, with her voice that of so many classic cartoon characters, her efforts to create ASIFA, to maintain the Academy's Oscar for Best Animated Short, and her leadership in crafting the category of Best Animated Feature. She was one of a kind, a trailblazer, a great talent, and a truly wonderful person. We will never forget her." I was almost about to say we will never forgive her, but that would be an absolute lie. Like, we have all forgiven her, in fact, much more than that. We will never forget her. That's kind of the big thing. But I just want to say my own little piece about this. When I first heard that June Foray passed away, like, I was totally crushed. Probably a bit more than some of the ones that we have lost in 2016. Like, honestly, like, I felt as crushed and sad as when I heard that Gene Wilder passed away. It really was tragic, because I truly am one of those people that grew up listening to the voice of June Foray. And for me, I feel like what I will remember her the most, and I've heard a lot of different voices from June Foray, like from Rocky and Bullwinkle and How the Grinch Stole Christmas and all the Disney cartoons and all that kind of stuff. But for me, I think what I'll remember her most is playing the role of Granny. Now, when I was a kid, I grew up watching a lot of Looney Tunes stuff, and little did I know that I would actually be listening to the same Granny from the classic cartoons from the late 50s onward, where she would play as Granny, or when I would go and watch some stuff like Sylvester and Tweety's Mysteries, or even some of the movies like Tweety's High-Flying Adventure or Space Jam. That's all the same Granny. And it truly is phenomenal thinking that. And especially the fact that she is such an amazing actress, but such an amazing trooper as well. The fact that she would go on, even at her elder age, to continue voice acting, like, that is true devotion to animation that anyone would seriously admire. It's like, honestly, in a way, I feel like I want to grow up to be like someone like June Foray, to really make that great big impact in animation, rather it be through voice acting or to help out the medium in order to really make it strong, to really make it the powerhouse that it is today. You know, it's truly phenomenal, and she really did such amazing work that really did touch the lives of everyone. It really is. And like I said before, it really is heartbreaking to hear that she would have to go. But then again, her time would eventually come sooner or later. I mean, keep in mind, she was just a few steps away from turning 100 years old. So, to say the least, she really did live a good, full life. No, not even that. A great, full life. Like, she really did contributed so much. And I think, honestly, it is Chuck Jones who actually said it best about her. That June Foray is not the female Mel Blanc, but that Mel Blanc is actually the male June Foray. And it really is true. And honestly, this is such an admirable woman, down to the point that she pretty much is one of the biggest icons in animation, period. Like, not just in voice acting, but just in animation, to really help it grow strong, to create an organization, to really let the Oscars know that animation does exist and we need to keep it up there, to create an entire award show to celebrate animation, like, to really make it the medium's biggest night, so that all the artists and animators can come together and have fun. But really, also, I think another great big thing about June Foray is really the fact that she is known to be one of the biggest names in voice acting, and also the woman who quite literally gave a voice to women in animation, who would later pass on the torch to many other fantastic female voice actresses that we know today, like Cree Summers, Tara Strong, what else is there? Grey DeLise, and so much more. I might be missing a few, I apologize, but you get the idea. She really was the one to really launch that path to show that women can do such amazing things in voice acting, and also can do amazing things in animation in general. And I really am going to miss that. And honestly, I seriously am going to miss June Foray. So, Granny, I just want to say thank you so much for the joy that you brought me as a kid and even today. And it really was quite an adventure, really learning about your contribution, at least to the Looney Tunes, when writing animation look back Looney Tunes. It really was amazing. And honestly, I will miss you. And no matter what, no matter who's going to be replacing her for roles such as Granny or Magica De Spell or Witch Hazel or whoever, I just hope that those people would do June Foray proud. I really do. And yeah, it really is sad to see her go, but honestly, she truly is an animation legend. And that is all that I've got for this week. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of the Animation Podcast. You can go and find more of my work at film-book.com. All you have to do is search for Mathieu Brunet or the Animation Podcast. You can also find me on Twitter at AniMat505. And if you listen to this podcast on iTunes or any other podcast service, do you mind doing us a little favor and rate and review this episode? That would be nice. And if you are listening to this podcast on YouTube, then hit that little like button in our video and leave us a comment on what your thoughts about the news this week. Tune in next week for the latest episode of the Animation Podcast and all things animation. Thank you guys so much for listening, and until next week, see you later, dudes.